Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I did it. I played Baldur's Gate finally. It's been out for what, 2 years, a year? I don't know. Um, I finally beat it multiple times. Okay, I say I finally beat it. Just to put in perspective, I've had this game since like the 27th, 28th, 29th maybe of February. And I currently have is it like 268 hours in the game. Not healthy, but I wanted to make sure before I made a video on it that I had thoroughly explored the game and um, and done like the all the important stuff, got like the major things. I mean, there's so many different endings. I'm not even remotely close to seeing the majority of them. I've only seen like the bad endings for a few characters, but I did one run. This was like my first run I did as like a neutral character, as a drow rogue, and it was super fun. I had a great time. Sometimes I'd make she was motivated by money, and so that a lot of the choices were very like sometimes she'd do the right thing, sometimes she'd be like, oh well, I actually I want to get money from this, or I can gain something from this, but ultimately wanted what was best for her companions and stuff. um and with that ending, I was unable to beat the Netherbrain on that run because I didn't understand how the the actual Netherbrain fight works once you enter the like portal mind thing. So I ended up having Gale blow himself up, and I hated that. Hated that ending. But then, like, going to the camp or sorry, major fucking spoilers, by the way. Um, Probably should have prefaced with that. But then, like, in the camp, when you get to talk to his projection, and what's her name? Tara? I can't remember the name of his Tressum. Uh, it was really like, I don't know. It was super emotional, and like I was upset. I like at that point I was pretty upset about the ending I had gotten. But then I did another playthrough. I did a dirge playthrough, which you don't if you haven't played the game, it's a dark urge. So it's like you get the you have dark urges to like kill and stuff like that. And that storyline, I feel like that's kind of like, there's Tav, which is like the player character, but I kind of feel like Dark Urge is like kind of the real main character. That's where it feels like the I don't know, where it feels like the character themselves fits into the like written plot of the game. And I did the where I did not resist the urges, and it's brutal. You do some wicked shit, um, and but it's incredibly well written, and I actually strongly preferred it to the good storyline in terms of writing, right? Like I did not enjoy like wiping out the tiefling camp and shit. I did it for role play, but it's rough. It's hard not to feel really bad. And I think that's a good thing, I think you're supposed to feel bad for doing that sort of stuff. Like, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. But it's dark, and I'm a very big fan of. I really like dark, like storylines and dark themes. You know, more mature themes and stuff. I really like, um, and that's something that this game does really well. It's very there's so much tragedy. All of the companions have such tragic stories, and they're all victims of manipulation and abuse. And they all are very different and go through different things. And it's very, like, you get a very good variety of seeing different kinds of people that it's like these are like this is there's real people like that. You know, it's like this is real. This happens in real life, not to like the same extent with like gods and magic and shit, but to the extent that that people are susceptible to manipulation. You know, people are victims, and people experience can experience similar things, and like they all experience manipulation and abuse, but they all took it differently because they're all different people, um, with different backgrounds and stuff. And it was so I found myself so enamored with the characters. The characters are the best part of that game. The decision making is great and stuff, though I will admit, or I'll say that for the end. I'll talk about the bad stuff at the end, because this game very, very quickly shot up to my top 3 games of all time. Would I put it number one? Maybe. Um, I've enjoyed it to an immense degree. I've loved playing it. It is not without its frustrations, and it is far from being a perfect game. But personally, I have found that perfect games are rarely the ones that enamor me the most, that draw me in. Because take like Skyrim, for example, right? Far from being a perfect game. There's so many bugs and stuff. Some of them can be game breaking, and it's really frustrating. But then there's also so many bugs that are just hilarious and like just make for some really funny moments. And I've had stuff like that happen in Baldur's Gate 3. I've also had stuff happen where I'm just like, this is actually taking away from the quality of my experience playing this. But I don't know, it's like the negatives were not even remotely enough to outweigh the positives. There are times when I felt my immersion broken a little bit. There's a lot of choice you get to make to influence how the story ends, but there is towards the specifically towards like the end, like Act 3, towards the end of it, it does feel like you are left with very little choice in how like the fight with the Netherbrain goes, and whether or not you fight it at all, which I don't love. You know, like I think you lose that aspect of it. I'll use an example. One thing that really bothered me. I just finished yesterday a playthrough. I've been I did a good playthrough. I did or like a middle of the ground playthrough. I did a Dark Urge. I actually did a couple Dark Urge because I did Dark Urge, then I did modded, where I played through as a Sith and had like I used a mod that lets me edit the origin characters, so I was able to make everybody look like Sith Lords, and it was fucking sick. And I was like, oh, we're Inquisitors. And it was awesome. I loved it. And then I started another modded playthrough. Though the only mods I was using on this one was just the ability to, or it just added some weapons and armor, because that is one thing I do feel like the game is a little lacking in, like the artifacts you can find. I feel like when it comes to like actual like legendary equipment, where it's like, yeah, this is like a legendary item, only one of it exists, and I have it, kind of thing. And I had to work hard to get it. I do kind of feel like they they didn't include a lot of that, um, or at least not for all the characters. So I did, I had a mod that added some more to that, and more like armor that's like class specific. Um, and it was, I mean, that was my most recent run, and I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. When you're playing modded, I feel like there's significantly more bugs and stuff, which makes sense. Um, I found textures not loading a lot, or like walls of buildings would just not be there. I will say that, or let me not get sidetracked. I've been playing or creating, and playing as gods and goddesses from my mythos that I've been working on. And I decided to start with the first god in my mythos, whose name is Asara, and she is like lawful good. She's like, she can't stand seeing people in need and not doing something about it. She's willing to sacrifice everything to for the sake of other people. Um, and then but in my mythos, people are born mortal, and they can ascend to godhood, by becoming extremely powerful. And that was like, oh, I'm gonna do this for her, and I'm gonna play through the game, and I'm gonna, um, I'm gonna do the right thing, and I'm gonna. I lost my train of thought. No. Anyways, when I got to the ending of that playthrough, I wanted to free Orpheus so that Lae'zel could have her best ending. Now, the issue with this is that once you free Orpheus, the Emperor leaves, which, low-key, fuck the Emperor. Hate that bitch. And then Orpheus says somebody has to become a full-fledged Mind Flayer. And my character, if I'm very deep in the roleplay aspects of this. My character would sacrifice themselves so that other people could be happy. So the options are, if you're close enough with Lae'zel, you can convince her to become a Mind Flayer. Orpheus can become the Mind Flayer. Keep in mind, he's been trapped for like a century. No, I don't remember how long he was trapped. At least a century. And then you finally free him. And he's supposed to be the one that will liberate the Githyanki people, Lae'zel's race, from the Lich Queen, who's a tyrant. But morally, it doesn't feel right to ask either of them to do it, especially for my character, who's like, well, I don't want them to sacrifice that part of themselves. Because Mind Flayers, it's explained to you by Withers that Mind Flayers, objectively, in this universe, they don't have souls. So the thought of my character sacrificing their soul was such a big deal. And admittedly, I actually cried, towards that ending when I had to choose that, because it was so hard, because I had been doing this playthrough so intently on role playing this character exactly how they would be in my mythos, and then at the very end, it's like if you want to play this character as they are, you have to become a monster. You know, you have to become this alien tentacly thing. And I'm like, well, as a god, my character wouldn't be that. You know, they would have remained a human. I wanted them to keep looking like the character that I took so much time creating, and that was very frustrating. But I was like, well, my character later down the line, before becoming a god, um, figures out how to reverse the seromorphosis and becomes human again. And then ascends to godhood because they become so powerful they figure out a way to do it. But I wanted to see, because my character was going to romance Gale, but then I fucked that up because I missed a certain scene. Which is another thing that kind of frustrated me. Is one is, there's very few partners or companions that you can have multiple partners. I think Lae'zel and Halsin and Asterion, I think. I could totally be wrong, but so the option of polyamory is pretty limited, which I didn't love. But it also makes sense, right? Because, like, from a logistical sense, most people are not polyamorous. So that makes sense. But it was still like a role play aspect that I wish was more of an option. And keep in mind, I don't think any of these negatives are really Larian's fault. I think they were rushed. I think they had a deadline. And I think a lot of people agree with me that, like, Act 1 and Act 2, phenomenal. Great. Loved them. Not really any complaints, except for that you have to fight and kill Ketheric. Even if you're playing a villain, you can't side completely with the Absolute and follow the cult all the way through, which I wish that had been an option. Where it's like, because even if you let Balthazar take the Night Song too, this probably makes no fucking sense to people who haven't played this game. I'm just throwing out names. If you let Balthazar take the Night Song to Ketheric, you go there, you still have to fight him. I didn't love that. But but Ketheric Thorm is an incredible character. Loved Ketheric Thorm. Amazing villain. The scene where they introduce him, where you first meet him in person, is wow. they killed it. It's so badass. Like, he's so fucking cool, and his theme, oh, that song that plays, is so fucking good. And if you take your time and explore the rest of the Shadow Cursed lands, like, thoroughly, and, like, read the books, talk to the characters, see the buildings and stuff, you learn so much about Ketheric, and his past and how he influenced that whole area, that it adds so much context to his character. And if you get all that and then you meet him, or then you fight him, and you understand him so much more, and it adds so much more motivation, in whatever direction, depending on your character, and your reasoning. But the motivation, is just amplified so much. And admittedly, there's a lot of lore, like, there's a lot of books and notes and stuff. They are fairly compact and to the point, right? So it's like picking up a book and reading it. It's like 2-3 pages max. It's very easy to read, but the lore adds so much the to the game. You know, those like hearing character stories and stuff. Same with Orin and uh, Gortash. There's a lot of things around uh, Rivington, Worms Rock, and Baldur's Gate that are, they add a lot of context, right? Like Gortash had an awful childhood. Orin, I feel like you get most of hers from Dark Urge. When you're not doing the Dark Urge stuff, it's pretty. I don't know. Orin is a character that it's more difficult to understand, um, and not just because she's crazy, but it's like I feel like she's a little less of a like fleshed out character, you know. Where it's I just, and Gortash, no, I'd say Gortash definitely was pretty fleshed out. I think he's a good villain. I still think Kethric's the best one. Orin's definitely the worst one. She just, I don't know, she felt pretty shallow to me. Like her motivations were not. I mean, like everybody in this game, like their motivation is trauma, you know, and the shit they went through as a child. With Orin, I mean, she definitely grew up in a fucked up house, but like it seemed like she was also fucked up herself. Like she was just kind of crazy. And I feel like people in real life, I just feel like that doesn't happen. Not that there's not crazy people, but that they're not just insane purely by nature. I think nature absolutely has an effect on that, you know, with some serial killers and stuff, and sociopathy, psychopathy, and just literally lacking empathy. She's just kind of like a crazed, like fanatic sort of thing, but not in the same way that like Shadowheart was, where it's like true, like devotion because she was told that that's how it is. For Orin, it's like worse Toga from My Hero. Right? Like if Toga had less character. That's kind of how she felt to me. Um yeah, apart from like some role play things that I was like, I wish you know, there's a little bit of illusion of choice. Um Especially later in the game. But there's plenty of choices you can make that do influence. I just wish there were certain areas where there were more options. Because there are times where you can't really do what your character, you're like, oh, my character would do this, and you're not able to, and that's frustrating. But I think if Larian was given more time to polish, I think it would have been better. Fuck Hasbro. I think it's Hasbro. Yeah. Fuck Hasbro. But it's, I mean, overall, I'd still rate it a 10 out of 10 game. Even with its flaws that can be very frustrating at times. You know, it's things where it's like, I mean, it's got a very similar thing with like Skyrim where you haven't saved for a while and then you die or you mess up and you have to reload. You really have to get in the habit of quick saving frequently, but then you have a limited number of quick saves. So if you quick save too much and then you're like, oh, I made a decision way back here that fucked me up, or I missed something, and then you can't go back to there anymore because all the other quick saves, you know, it got pushed out by new quick saves. That can be pretty frustrating. I wish it would at least keep the auto saves, and I didn't really hard save at all, so I don't really know how that is. But if we're talking, you know, plot, characters, themes, world building, the environment, setting, incredible. Just it's stunning, unmatched. I don't know if I'd go as I want to say that it's the best RPG video game out there, like in existence. But, before you come for my throat, um, there are so many role playing games that I haven't played. But I've played a lot of fantasy role playing games. But like I haven't played Dragon's Age or like other Larian games like what was it, Devil's something, I think. I've played very little of um, Dark Souls, like the Soulsborne franchise. Never played what's Elden Ring. Never played Elden Ring. And I can absolutely look at them from an outside perspective and respect and appreciate what they are. Incredible. Um, but from my experience of what I have played, I could call it the best fantasy RPG video game ever made. I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong. It's a bold statement to make. But it is that good. I think it is genuinely that good. I started playing D&D years ago. Oh, like 3 years ago maybe. And I was just playing it with friends, and I had a really good time. It was fun, but it's a lot. It is a lot to learn. There's a very big learning curve. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the perfect way to teach somebody or to introduce somebody to D&D. It it helped me to understand spells and cantrips and saving throws and armor class and spell save difficulty class. It really helps to understand the nuances of this stuff, because a lot of it does like auto, like reactions and stuff. But once you've done it, like you've seen it automatically enough, I think it's easier to apply that to a real D&D session. Whoa, a real D&D session, IRL. And it's made me really want to play, because I've never finished a campaign. I've never gotten far in a campaign. I've never done more than like 3 or 4 sessions of a campaign before. And that was usually scheduling stuff, or like the DM was just not good for me, not a good fit. And that's hard. You have to play with the right people who want to play like you want to play, or people that you're okay with them playing how they play and you play how you play, But it has reawakened my desire to play D&D. From a role playing perspective, and when like tabletop D&D, the illusion of choice is not there really. It's you have choice. You can change the story as needed, and that's one thing about in a video game format. There are set things that it's like this happens, then it leads to this. I think the difference is the reason that illusion of choice kind of comes up in Baldur's Gate, the video game, is because it goes like it branches out, but then funnels back in. That's how I would describe it. That's the issue that I had with that, where it's like, oh yeah, you get to make all these decisions and they affect things, and then there's some things at the end, but it comes to this one cinch point where you have to do one of like a couple things, and that is frustrating. Like it always ends with fighting the nether brain, or you die early. Like you do something along the way that your whole team gets wiped out. And that's a little frustrating, because there are certain choices that you can't make without just becoming an illithid there and then. And that is, that, to bar people from making those decisions without ending the game, that's frustrating. I'd understand if there were severe consequences for those actions, but the fact that you just game over immediately when you make one of those decisions is frustrating, and it is, it does pull from the immersion a little bit. But ultimately, I just think the positives so heavily outweigh the negatives. And I highly, highly, highly recommend this game to everyone. You know, it's it is so much fun. Um, the ability to romance companions is awesome, and a lot of their, getting to know them intimately was so, I don't know, it was so awesome. And I'm the type of person, because like I'm asexual and maybe not like aromantic, but kind of like I don't know. I might be aromantic. I'm still discovering that part of myself, still exploring that. But I love it in fiction. Like when I'm like role playing and stuff, I love it, and I swoon over it. Right? Like I see people, like it makes me really happy to see people in happy, healthy relationships, and I love love. It brings me so much joy. I just don't know if like, but that's in a fantasy setting. I mean, I like to see my friends and people in real life like that as well. But for me, I enjoy it in a fantasy setting, but not so much in real life. But it's so, whew, it's so well done. I the romance in that game is awesome, but I do wish that you could romance somebody later if you like messed up in the first act and you like missed an opportunity. I wish that they granted you more opportunity later on with that, and some of the characters you do, but some of them it's like, oh, you missed this scene, sorry, so you're done. And that can be really frustrating when you've worked really hard. Like with playing as Asara, I was trying to romance Gale, so all of Act 1 I was really into that. And then in Act 2, I missed a scene where he's like a projection and you talk to him and then you go talk under the stars. I missed that. And the game didn't tell me, like, oh, yeah, somebody wants to. Because normally when you try to take a long rest, it's like, oh, somebody wants to talk to you. It doesn't do that for that one. So if you just miss it, you miss it. And like for somebody who's a new player, right, they might long rest and like it's very easy to miss, especially when the campsite, not everybody's in a circle all together, right? They're spread out and you can't see them all from the same location. Which was another thing I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel like that was a bit of an oversight. But it's very easy to miss, and it genuinely really upset me when I fumbled that relationship with Gale, because I've done 2 playthroughs where I fumbled that. And that was really frustrating because he is my husband and I love him. He's very much so my type, the like Jesus type. Yes. But but then I ended up being with Halzen, who's adorable. I love him. I wish he had a beard, dude. He looks. I don't like his face without facial hair, and I get it. He's an elf, whatever, but he has body hair. Like he's got arm hair and chest hair and stuff, like, or at least I'm pretty sure he does. If I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong, but he's got hair on top of his head. So why didn't? I don't know. Doesn't make sense. It's a D&D thing, but whatever. I want Halson to have a beard. Damn it, then he'd be perfect. But overall, incredible game. I've taken so much time talking about this, and I don't want to talk in circles. Highly recommend it. One of the best games I've ever played. Amazing experience, and I'm certain that there's going to be far more many, many, many more hours into that game for me. I want to see how many hours I have in Skyrim and compare that, because Skyrim I've played PS4 or Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, PS5 since it came out, 2011. I've played that game so much. Like in high school, I played it non-stop, like for hours and hours. I would not be surprised if I have over 1,000 hours in that game. I would be surprised if Baldur's Gate does not eventually reach that point. The amount of endings that there are, like tiny differences in endings. But like I want to experience all of it. And I went and I explored every map like thoroughly. And there's so much. It took. So I gotta see how long that run alone was. But there's a lot to see and a lot to miss. There's like I thought I did almost everything there was to do on my first playthrough. Not even close. I missed so much. I can't recommend this game enough. I'm gonna say it over and over again. It's that good. I'm so happy I played it. I put it off for so long because I tried. I was like, it doesn't look like the type of game I'd enjoy, the like turn-based combat and stuff. And then the first time I ever played it, I died in the first encounter with the devil, and I was like, on the easiest difficulty, and I was like, I was like, it didn't make me feel good, So I dropped it, and I didn't own the game. Like I was playing at a friend's house, but then that friend got me it for my birthday, and I'm fucking addicted. It's a great game, dude. I know I've said it a billion times already. It's good. Play Baldur's Gate. I'm gonna leave it there. Cut it off. I'm yapping. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Helps a lot, Ring the bell. Hit the like button. All the algorithm shit really helps me out. I love you guys. See you next time.